I was helping a customer when my husband texted, "I'm leaving you. I emptied our account. Have fun." 10 years of marriage ended in 12 words. But what he didn't know was that I'd already discovered his affair. And I had a secret of my own. After 10 years together, my husband Mark thought he had me figured out. A predictable wife who worked at a small boutique while he climbed the corporate ladder. That morning started like any other. Coffee together, a quick kiss goodbye, him heading to work in our luxury car. By noon, he'd emptied our joint account, leaving me with $42 to my name. What he didn't realize was that I'd known about his affair with his assistant for months. He thought he was breaking me with that text. Instead, he was setting me free. The first sign something was wrong appeared 6 months earlier. Mark started working late, missing dinners, and taking mysterious weekend business trips. His cologne changed, and suddenly, all his texts were password protected. I didn't confront him immediately. Something inside told me to watch and wait. One evening, while he showered, I noticed his Apple Watch lighting up with messages. "Can't wait to see you again," followed by heart emojis from someone named Jay. My stomach dropped, but instead of screaming or crying, I took photos of the messages and put the watch back exactly where I found it. When you suspect betrayal, your first instinct might be to confront the situation head-on. But sometimes, strategic patience reveals more than immediate confrontation. I remembered what my grandmother once told me. In chess and in life, the winner isn't the one who moves fastest, but the one who sees 3 moves ahead. So I began playing chess. I started documenting everything: late nights, unexplained expenses, mysterious calls that would end when I entered the room. I created a separate email account where I forwarded suspicious credit card statements showing hotel charges in our own city and restaurant bills for 2 on nights he claimed to be working late. The confirmation came when I followed him one evening. He told me he had an emergency client meeting, but I watched as he picked up his young assistant, Jenna, and drove to a waterfront restaurant. Through the window, I saw them laughing, holding hands across the table, and eventually kissing. It was like watching a movie about strangers. I felt oddly detached, as if my emotions had been temporarily switched off. Instead of storming in, I took photos, then drove home and opened my laptop. I researched divorce attorneys, documenting requirements, and started reading about financial planning for suddenly single women. Knowledge, I discovered, was the first step toward power. What most betrayed spouses do wrong is reveal their hand too soon. They confront with tears and anger, giving their unfaithful partner time to hide assets, delete evidence, and prepare their defense. I decided to do things differently. While Mark thought I was clueless, I was consulting with a financial advisor who specialized in helping women through divorce. "Your husband works in finance and knows how to hide money," she warned me. "We need to be smarter." She advised me to get copies of tax returns, investment statements, and to document our assets. I started gathering these papers, creating digital copies, and storing them in a secure cloud account he couldn't access. Little did I know how crucial this preparation would become. While maintaining the appearance of our perfect marriage, I was quietly building my escape plan. I opened a separate bank account at a different bank, depositing small amounts from my boutique paychecks that wouldn't raise suspicion. I took professional development courses that my husband dismissed as cute hobbies, not realizing I was learning skills that would later double my income. The boutique owner, sensing my situation without me having to explain, offered me additional responsibilities and training in business management. "You have an eye for this," she said, "and someday you might want to run your own business." Those words planted a seed that would eventually grow into my salvation. The hardest part wasn't discovering the betrayal. It was smiling through dinner parties, family gatherings, and date nights while knowing the truth. Each time Mark's phone buzzed and he quickly turned it face down, each working late excuse, each kiss that tasted like another woman's perfume, I endured it all while strengthening my position. I reconnected with friends he had isolated me from, explaining that I missed them and wanted to rebuild our relationships. I spoke with my parents, not revealing everything, but hinting that I might need their support soon. I researched our condo's market value, discovering it had doubled since we purchased it. Most importantly, I learned that Mark had put the property solely in my name years ago to protect it from a potential lawsuit at his firm, a detail he had apparently forgotten. Financial independence requires both offense and defense strategies. While building my secret fund, I also focused on improving my credit score, which had suffered from years of Mark handling all our finances. I applied for 2 credit cards in my name alone, used them sparingly, and paid them off completely each month. I requested a free credit report and disputed several errors, watching my score climb month by month. When Mark complained about our cell phone bill, I offered to handle it and switched to a separate account in my name. "You're becoming so good with these practical matters," he said condescendingly, not realizing he was complimenting my independence. Each small step might seem insignificant, but together they were building a foundation for my future. What Mark never understood about me was my resilience. Growing up with 4 brothers in a household where money was always tight, I had learned to be resourceful long before I met him. Those survival skills had been dormant during our marriage, buried beneath the comfort of our lifestyle and his insistence on controlling our finances. Now they awaken like dormant muscles finally being stretched. I researched legal rights in our state, learning that his infidelity could impact our divorce settlement. I documented dates, times, locations of his meetings with Jenna. I even recorded a phone conversation where he accidentally mentioned their weekend plans while thinking I was my sister on the phone. Evidence gathered, support system rebuilt, finances organized. I was almost ready when destiny decided to accelerate my timeline. The day everything changed started normally. I kissed Mark goodbye, watched him drive away in our BMW, and headed to the boutique for my shift. Around noon, while helping a customer select a dress for her anniversary, my phone buzzed. The text from Mark was brutally simple. "I'm leaving you for someone who appreciates success. I've emptied our account. The condo payment is due next week. Good luck figuring it out." My hands trembled as I excused myself and checked our joint account. The $42,000 we had saved, money I had contributed to from every paycheck, was gone. He had taken everything, believing it would leave me desperate and begging. The boutique owner found me in the back room, handed me a glass of water, and said the words that centered me. "Whatever he's done, remember that your response now determines your future, not his actions." The interesting thing about emotional trauma is how it can bring unexpected clarity. As the initial shock subsided, a strange calm settled over me. I remembered the condo was in my name alone, information Mark had clearly forgotten. I called the financial advisor I'd been consulting, who confirmed what I suspected. He could empty our joint accounts, but he couldn't touch property that was solely in my name. "This is actually good news," she said. "He's shown his cards too early." I called the attorney I'd researched, explaining the situation and asking how quickly we could move. "With the documentation you've gathered and his financial abandonment, we can file emergency orders to freeze any other assets," she explained. "And given the real estate market right now, that condo is your golden ticket." When facing betrayal, many people collapse under the weight of both emotional and financial stress. They focus on the relationship that's ending rather than the life that's beginning. I decided that moment in the boutique backroom that I would not be defined by Mark's rejection, but by my response to it. The real estate market in our area had been booming, with properties often selling within days. Our 3-bedroom waterfront condo, purchased for $450,000 7 years ago, was now worth nearly $900,000. I called a realtor friend who had been sending me market updates, asking if her promise of a quick sale was realistic. "For your place? I have 3 clients who would buy it sight unseen," she confirmed. "How soon can I list it?" The plan that had been slowly forming in my mind suddenly crystallized into action. The most powerful moment in any story of betrayal isn't the moment you're hurt. It's the moment you decide your own worth. Standing in that boutique, I made 3 calls that would change everything. To my bank to secure my personal account from any attempts to access it, to the realtor to list the condo immediately, and to a locksmith. "I need the locks changed today," I told him. "It's urgent." When he asked if there was a problem, I simply said, "I'm not waiting for problems to find me anymore." By the time I finished my shift, The locksmith had completed his work. The realtor had scheduled a photographer for that evening, and my attorney had drafted emergency motions to protect me from further financial abandonment. Mark thought his text was an ending. He had no idea it was my beginning. That evening, I welcomed the real estate photographer into a home that had already stopped feeling like mine. As he photographed each carefully staged room, I packed 2 suitcases with only what I truly needed: the designer clothes Mark had insisted I wear, the expensive jewelry that had always felt like golden handcuffs. I left them all hanging in the closet. Instead, I took family photos, a quilt my grandmother had made, and practical items I would need to restart. The photographer remarked on how immaculate everything looked, perfect for selling quickly. "The owner clearly takes great pride in this property," he said, not realizing he was photographing the scene of a marriage's demise. That night, I stayed with my parents, telling them a simplified version of events. My father, never Mark's biggest fan, simply nodded and said, "The best revenge isn't getting even, it's getting ahead." The listing went live at 9 a.m. the next morning with an asking price of $899,000. By noon, the realtor had scheduled 10 showings and received 3 offers sight unseen, all above asking price. The highest bid came in at $925,000, with a 20-day closing period and no contingencies. While fielding these offers, I received 16 missed calls from Mark, followed by increasingly desperate texts. "Where are you? Why aren't you answering? The key doesn't work. Finally, why is there a for sale sign in front of our condo?" I forwarded these to my attorney with a simple note: documentation as requested. Then I sent Mark one text: "The condo isn't ours. The deed is in my name only. Perhaps you should have reviewed our assets before leaving me with $42. My attorney will contact yours tomorrow." Then I blocked his number, silencing the chaos he was trying to create. When navigating a crisis, decision fatigue becomes your greatest enemy. Too many people exhaust themselves with emotional reactions instead of focusing on strategic actions. I created a simple 3-priority system: financial security, legal protection, and emotional health. For financial security, I accepted the highest offer on the condo and arranged for the proceeds to be deposited into my separate account. For legal protection, I provided my attorney with all the documentation I'd gathered about Mark's affair and financial abandonment. And for emotional health, I did something that surprised even me. I signed up for a 2-week business development workshop that started the following Monday. "Are you sure the timing is right for this?" my mother asked. I replied, "When else would I have 2 weeks completely free to reinvent myself?" The workshop became my sanctuary as the legal process unfolded in the background. Each morning, I immersed myself in learning about small business management, market analysis, and financial planning. Each evening, I reviewed documents from my attorney and made necessary decisions without allowing them to consume my entire day. One of the workshop leaders noticed my focus and asked about my situation. After hearing an abbreviated version, she said something that shifted my perspective completely. "Most people spend their entire lives letting others write their story. You've just been handed a blank page and a pen. Don't waste it writing about him." Those words resonated deeply. While Mark was frantically trying to explain to his firm how he'd lost his housing and savings, I was designing the business plan that would eventually become my award-winning boutique chain. Support often comes from unexpected places when you're rebuilding your life. My boss at the boutique, Elaine, called me into her office 2 weeks after everything happened. "I'm not getting any younger," she said, placing a folder on the desk between us. "And I've been looking for someone to take over when I retire next year." The folder contained a business succession plan with my name on it. "You've learned every aspect of this business, have an eye for trends, and customers trust you," she continued. "I've watched how you've handled this personal crisis without missing a beat at work. That's exactly the kind of resilience a business owner needs." The opportunity she offered, to buy the boutique over time using its own profits, aligned perfectly with the business plan I'd been developing. Sometimes the universe conspires in your favor precisely when you need it most. The condo closing happened faster than expected, completed in just 18 days. The proceeds, after paying off the remaining mortgage, left me with just over $600,000. My financial advisor helped me allocate the funds. Some for taxes, some for a modest apartment purchase, some invested for long-term growth, and $150,000 set aside for the boutique succession plan. When the funds hit my account, an unexpected message appeared on my phone, not from Mark, but from his mother. "I know what happened," it read. "Mark told us his version, but we've known you for 10 years. We'd like to hear yours." That Sunday lunch with my former in-laws was one of the hardest meetings I've ever attended, but their response changed everything. "You're still family to us," his father said, "and we raised our son better than this." What most people don't realize about rebuilding after betrayal is that your network often expands rather than shrinks. Mark's assistant Jenna reached out next, with a surprising revelation. "He's done this before," she wrote. "I just found out about 3 other women he was seeing simultaneously, including me and you. When I confronted him, he became verbally abusive." She offered to provide documentation for my divorce proceedings and apologized for her role in the situation. The information she provided revealed a pattern of financial manipulation that strengthened my legal position considerably. My attorney was able to use this evidence to secure an emergency financial order, preventing Mark from accessing our investment accounts until the divorce was finalized. Sometimes, the truth creates unexpected alliances among those who have been deceived. Professional networks can become personal lifelines during major life transitions. A customer at the boutique who worked in banking offered to review my new business plan, providing insights that significantly improved its viability. Another, who taught at the local university's business school, invited me to speak to her class about retail entrepreneurship, which connected me with a student who would eventually become my first employee when I expanded. The workshop leader who had given me such powerful advice became a mentor, meeting monthly to review my progress. Even my brothers, who had always been protective but distant, rallied around me, one offering accounting help, another handling the renovation of my new apartment on weekends. The support system I built wasn't just emotional. It was a practical foundation for the success that was about to unfold. 4 months after Mark's abandonment text, I received a certified letter from his company's HR department. Apparently, Mark had listed me as his emergency contact and investment beneficiary years ago, and never changed it despite our separation. The letter explained that due to irregularities discovered in client accounts, Mark had been suspended pending investigation. I forwarded the letter to my attorney, who made inquiries through professional connections. The story that emerged was both shocking and vindicating. Mark had been diverting small amounts from client accounts for years, amounts he thought wouldn't be noticed. The investigation had begun after one especially attentive client questioned a discrepancy. What triggered the full audit? Mark's suddenly erratic behavior after losing his condo and discovering his abandoned wife wasn't begging to return. The human mind seeks closure after betrayal, some final understanding that makes sense of what happened. My closure arrived unexpectedly through Mark's former colleague, who reached out after the news of his suspension spread through the company. "I've wanted to tell you this for years," she confessed over coffee. "Mark has been living a double life since before you married. The person you knew, the successful, confident financial advisor, was largely fictional." She explained how he had maintained his reputation through careful image management while consistently performing below his peers. His flashy spending and need for admiration had been compensating for professional mediocrity and mounting debt. While I had been growing professionally during our marriage, Mark had been barely maintaining his position, taking increasingly dangerous risks to appear successful. The most valuable insights often come from understanding patterns rather than isolated incidents. With this new information, I reviewed our decade together through a different lens. Mark's insistence on controlling our finances, his dismissal of my career ambitions, his need to showcase our lifestyle to friends. These weren't just personality traits but strategic choices to maintain his illusion of success. The affairs weren't just about physical attraction, but about finding new audiences who would believe his carefully constructed narrative. The financial abandonment wasn't merely cruel, it was desperate. A man using his last resources to start his story over with someone who didn't yet see through the facade. This understanding wasn't about excusing his behavior, but about recognizing that his betrayal reflected his weaknesses, not mine. When life reveals difficult truths, you can either resist them or use them to elevate your perspective. I chose elevation. Mark's deception had never been personal. It was the desperate scrambling of someone who didn't know how to be authentic or build genuine success. While he had been constructing illusions, I had been building real skills, genuine relationships, and authentic confidence. The realization transformed how I approached my growing business responsibilities. In meetings with vendors and financial partners for the boutique succession, I began speaking with a newfound authority. Where once I might have deferred, assuming others knew more than I did, I now recognized my own expertise and insight. This confidence wasn't born from anger or revenge, but from clarity. The clear vision that comes when illusions are stripped away and reality stands revealed. 8 months after that devastating text, the boutique transition was proceeding ahead of schedule. Elaine had moved into a semi-retirement role, coming in 3 days a week, while I managed daily operations and implemented new strategies. Our sales had increased by 22% after I introduced an online component and personalized styling services. Customers who had known me during my marriage often commented on the change they saw. "You seem so much more yourself now," was a common refrain. One afternoon, while helping a client select an interview outfit, she shared that she was leaving an unhealthy relationship and was terrified of starting over at 42. As I helped her find pieces that made her feel confident, I shared parts of my story. The day I realized I wasn't starting over, but starting forward was when everything changed, I told her. Her transformation in the mirror, standing taller, shoulders back, reflected my own journey. The divorce was finalized with terms far more favorable than even my attorney had anticipated. Mark's professional misconduct and the evidence of his long-term deception resulted in a settlement that included division of retirement accounts he had believed were protected. The judge's comments during the final hearing were particularly validating. The court rarely sees such clear documentation of financial abandonment and breach of fiduciary duty within a marriage. When Mark attempted to claim half the proceeds from the condo sale, his own mother testified that he had boasted to family about putting the property in my name to protect his assets. As we left the courthouse, my attorney handed me the final decree and said something I'll never forget. In 15 years of practice, I've never seen someone transform a potential tragedy into such empowered self-determination. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. Professional reinvention often parallels personal transformation. As the boutique flourished under my leadership, I began receiving inquiries about consulting with other small retail businesses struggling in the changing market. What started as occasional advice over coffee evolved into a formal side business providing retail strategy consulting. I developed a workshop called Retail Renaissance that helped traditional brick-and-mortar stores develop hybrid models, incorporating online sales and experience-based shopping. The workshop sold out 3 sessions in a row, creating an unexpected additional income stream and building my reputation in the retail community. A local business magazine ran a feature on the boutique's successful transition and expansion, highlighting innovative approaches to a challenging retail environment. The article ended with a question that became my mantra. What appears to be the end of one chapter might actually be the prologue to your greatest success story. The most profound transformations happen internally, often invisible to others until they manifest in external reality. My approach to relationships, both personal and professional, underwent a complete restructuring. Where I once sought approval, I now sought alignment with my values. Where I once avoided conflict, I now addressed issues directly and compassionately. Where I once downplayed my accomplishments, I now own them confidently. These shifts weren't about becoming hardened by betrayal, but about becoming clarified by it, seeing myself and others more accurately. When a potential investor for the boutique's expansion suggested I might need someone with more experience to oversee the financial planning, I smiled and walked him through my business growth projections, market analysis, and risk management strategy, with such precision that he apologized by the end of the meeting. "I clearly underestimated you," he admitted. "That happens less frequently now," I replied. Exactly 1 year after Mark's text, I stood in the doorway of our second boutique location as the contractors finished the interior renovations. The space, once a struggling bookstore, had been transformed into an airy, inviting extension of the original boutique concept, but with enhanced features based on customer feedback. The personal style studio, in the back, offered private consultations for women navigating major life transitions, new careers, post-divorce reinvention, re-entering the workforce after raising children. The financial projections showed this location breaking even 3 months ahead of schedule, with the third location already in early planning stages. As I walked through the space, approving final details before the grand opening, my phone chimed with a calendar notification. 1-year anniversary of freedom. I hadn't even realized I'd created the annual reminder, but standing there amid the physical manifestation of my new life, the symmetry felt perfect. Success creates its own momentum when built on authentic foundation. 2 weeks after our second location opened, a National Retail Association contacted me about presenting at their annual conference. The topic they proposed: resilient retail, adapting traditional business models for modern consumers, aligned perfectly with the approach that had transformed our boutique from a single struggling location to a growing brand with devoted customers. The presentation led to a feature in an industry publication, which caught the attention of a business school professor who invited me to co-teach a retail entrepreneurship course. Each opportunity built upon the previous one, creating a virtuous cycle of growth and recognition. What struck me most was how these professional achievements stemmed directly from the personal resilience I had developed through crisis. The skills that helped me survive betrayal, strategic thinking, emotional regulation, resource management, were the same ones driving my business success. Community building becomes both a strategy and a reward when rebuilding your life. Our boutique locations evolved into more than retail spaces. They became gathering places for women supporting each other through transitions. We hosted monthly reinvention roundtables, where customers shared resources, connections, and encouragement. One evening, during a particularly powerful session, where a recently widowed entrepreneur shared her journey back to professional confidence, I looked around the circle of women and felt a profound sense of purpose. This wasn't just a business. It was a movement creating ripples of transformation throughout our community. The boutique's success had become a platform for something larger, a message that setbacks, even devastating ones, could become launching pads for unexpected fulfillment. The financial achievements were significant, but this impact on individual lives became the true measure of success. Life's greatest plot twists often arrive when we've stopped scanning the horizon for them. 18 months after Mark's abandonment, I received an unexpected email from a national retail brand known for acquiring innovative local businesses. Their development director had visited our locations while in town for a conference and been impressed with our concept and execution. "We're particularly interested in your approach to blending traditional retail with community building and personal services," the email explained, before proposing a meeting to discuss potential partnership. What began as an exploratory conversation evolved into an acquisition offer that would preserve the boutique's unique identity while providing resources for national expansion. As I sat across from their executive team, reviewing the details of their proposal, I couldn't help but reflect on the journey. Mark's betrayal, intended to diminish me, had instead set in motion a sequence of events leading to this boardroom, to this moment, to this future I could never have imagined while living in the shadow of his deception. Life has a remarkable way of revealing your true strength precisely when you need it most. The text that was meant to break me became the catalyst that launched me into a completely new dimension of possibility. The question is, what message is waiting in your challenges right now? What doorway might be disguised as a devastating ending? The most powerful people aren't those who never face betrayal or setback. They're the ones who refuse to be defined by what was done to them and instead define themselves by how they respond. Your story doesn't end with someone else's actions. It pivots into something they could never have imagined for you. Whether you're facing relationship betrayal, professional underestimation, or financial setbacks, remember that the narrative belongs to the one willing to write the next chapter, not to those who walked away from the story. The boutiques now employ 27 women, many rebuilding their lives after similar experiences. Their transformation continues to inspire me daily, reminding me that personal resilience can create ripples that transform entire communities. What challenge are you facing that might actually be your launching pad? What ending might actually be your most powerful beginning? Sometimes the most devastating text message, the most humiliating rejection, or the most painful betrayal is actually life's way of redirecting you toward the future you deserve. Don't waste energy trying to rewrite chapters that have ended. Pour that power into creating the story that's waiting for you to begin. If this story resonated with you, I invite you to join our community of resilient rebuilders. Subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications to receive more stories of transformation and practical strategies for turning setbacks into comebacks. Share your own experience in the comments below. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. Remember, the most powerful words in any journey of reinvention are the simplest. This isn't the end. This is just the beginning.